Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Can everybody hear me? Am I audible? Yes. Great. Great. Just getting everything set up. Welcome. Hello, Pam. Hello, Lynn. Hello, Margaret. Hi, Morgan. Greetings, Richard. Hi, Kathleen. Welcome, Kevin. I don't think we've met. Hi, Kevin. Is it Gurgi? Close enough. Yes, welcome. And Willow. Hey, James. Hey, Colin. Awesome. And Renee. Hi, Renee. Lovely to be here with you all. So, as always, I think, or at least in the 3 weeks that I've been here, we're going to start off with a little sit. So, find yourself in a comfortable position. Or if you want to push yourself in an uncomfortable position, that's fine too. And because in this week's session we'll be focusing on the topic of love, we'll start by generating metta. Now, there are lots of ways to generate metta, this quality of loving friendliness or warmth, heartful warmth. Sometimes we can use phrases like, may I be happy, may I be peaceful, or may someone else be happy or peaceful. But today we're going to do something a little different. I'll invite you to do something a little different, which a teacher of mine calls puppy metta. Now, if you're like me, puppies elicit feelings of warmth, heartfulness, care. So in your mind's eye, you can bring up an image of puppies or kittens. Notice how that impacts your felt sense of the body. Just notice if it's true that you love these animals. Such a feeling of wanting them to be safe and protected, cared for. Once you've generated that felt sense, you can drop the image and just marinate in the heartfulness, the metta, the love, the caring. And see if you can spread it throughout your body. Just be with it. Nuzzle into it. If you lose it, if it starts to fade, you just bring to mind the image of the puppies, or whatever other image or phrase helps you generate this felt sense. Sometimes while doing this practice, I end up smiling a lot, and that's okay. If you want to smile while you generate metta, that's a good sign. As you build and open into this feeling of metta, you can also choose to direct it. You could direct it to yourself, feeling love for yourself, feeling care for yourself, appreciation and warmth. You can direct it towards others, those you know you love, or those you are struggling with. Or you could extend this feeling towards all beings, or life itself. What's it like to feel love for life as a whole? Important thing is to feel the quality in your heart. As we learn to tune in to metta, we find it easier and easier to spontaneously enter into states of heartfulness and care. It can take some play and experimentation, what works for you to spark a feeling of love. If there is this heartful quality present, it can be helpful to appreciate it. Notice that it feels good to love in this way. This act of appreciation can help make this quality more accessible. This appreciation can also deepen the experience now. Great, thank you all. And welcome, Donnie. Nice to see you. So I'd like to do a kind of check-in to get our voices into this space. It's actually, I'm noticing this is the third time I've hosted this event, and it's always a bit strange, like to know that you're here, that you've like come into the space, and yet it's all completely silent because you're muted. Which I guess is like a quality of Zoom life that we now all get to enjoy. But it means a lot to me actually to hear just even your name, even though I know most of you, or anything else you want to share. You know, one thing, I'm very interested in image and how image functions in our meditation. And so if you like, you could share like how the puppies, if you did do the puppy image, how they showed up to you. Like my puppies were kind of playing together there were two puppies sort of playing together, jumping at each other, nipping at each other. And I imagine that each of us, if we did it, had slightly different images arise for our puppies. And so you could share that, or you could just share your name or whatever other short offering you'd like. But whoever wants to go can go first, and everybody who wants to go can go. And you don't have to if you don't like.
I'm Renee, and I had a bunch of gambling, like not playing cards, but gamboling puppies, like just running over each other, and they were very cute. And they would be cute if they were playing cards, but that's not what they were doing.
I'm Margaret, and I was holding the puppies and sniffing them with that puppy smell and that warm sweetness of puppies. And then I began to think of a lot of like babies and children that I've seen over the past year. The kids are so darn cute. And so I had that kind of love experience. It was lovely. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lynn,
Bob.
and this is Bob. My image, we're here in Dresher, not Dresher. We're here in Elkins Park, Pennsylvania. We used to be in Dresher. My image started with the puppies, but it shifted to my grandchildren, and they range in age from about 9 months to 15, and they're all separated except for the sibling groups. And so I was kind of looking around at them.
I also had a puppy-free experience.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kathleen, and I'm in Washington. My image of puppies was the actual puppies that have been in my life over the years, and sort of imagining each one of them as they came home. And my dog, who lives with me now, tuned right in and came and sat just on the other side of my computer, so I just got to kind of focus on how soft her ears are.
Hi, I'm Pam. I'm in Los Angeles, which is like summer here. Sorry. I thought you said poppies. And so I've had an image of the Wizard of Oz where she was putting the snow on them as they were walking through the poppies. And that always makes me happy. But then I realized it was puppies because you had said that. And there was a trade show I went to 2 years ago. And in the trade show, they had a little pen of puppies so that we could just unfocus from working. And that was great. They were crawling all over us. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Gergely from San Francisco, and my imagery was about my roommate's cat, whom I've been interacting with in the past days, and just a lot of images of sort of caring and fondness, and a very, very friendly and loving cat. So it's a good subject for this meditation.
Hi, I'm Colin. I also originally thought you said puppies and was confused for a little while. And then I imagined like very sort of like vague dog forms. And then I zoomed into my friend. My friend Anna has a beautiful puggle. That's the name of that. I'm James, and yeah, I was imagining the puppies like licking my face and like loving me, which was nice. Dogs just love us, and yeah, I guess I've been struggling with some self love lately, so that was nice. And also, just hearing your voice, Ryu, is like nice to know, like, oh yeah, puppies exist, and that makes me happy. And oh yeah, Ryu exists, and that makes me happy.
Hi, I'm Kevin. I was thinking about a actual experience I had when we puppy sat some puppies and they were crawling all over us, and then I added additional puppies to the image. And then I started thinking about um, I'm planning on getting a new dog soon, so thinking about welcoming a new puppy into my life. And I live in New York City.
Hi, I'm Donnie. Can you hear me? Coming in from Illinois. This time I moved from California, and I was pretty averse to coming here, but I have a particular challenge relationally, and I want to learn a bit more about what love means in that relationship. So.
Hi, I'm Sandra. I'm calling in from London, so it's a bit late. Hopefully I can stay until the end. I actually found it a bit hard to imagine puppies, and I guess I was trying to love myself in my not knowing how to experience love in the moment. But yeah, it's been a bit challenging today. So let's see where this goes later.
Hi, I'm Morgan. I also was a little challenged with the puppies, but the cat option really helped. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, it's Rich from Akron. And actually, we had just finished watching the first episode of All Creatures Great and Small. And so I really held on to that image of that interaction with animals. And while I was doing that, like Kathleen, our dog came up with his favorite toy and started playing here. And it was just really lovely to have that happen. So.
Okay. That might have been everybody. I wasn't actually tracking. I'm getting some head nods, yes. Okay, great. Okay, well, welcome. I'm not sure if I said what my name is. My name is Ryushin, or Ryu. Some people here might know me as Daniel, but within the Cedar tradition, I have the name of Ryushin. And so as was in the event description and as evidenced by our puppy meditation, today's topic is love, and in particular, the relationship between understanding and love. And the reason I chose this topic is in part because I recently heard a song called "The Key to Love is Understanding" by the Majestics, which I think is a kind of like R&B band from the 1960s or so. And I just love that phrase, "The key to love is understanding." And it had been sort of occupying my mind in meditation. Like, what does that mean? How do I understand that? Because it felt true, you know, how some things just kind of feel true. And I started to reflect, like, with how in my own inner process, when I can turn towards the parts of myself that are hardest to love and actually seek to understand them and come to a point of understanding them, that love immediately and spontaneously flows forth. I reflected on the ways that at the monastic academy, when we're circling or when there's conflict between residents, it's at the point where we finally can really see the world from each other's perspective, that we understand each other, that love pours forth. And I reflected on my own long retreat at the monastic academy, my 75-day retreat, where through understanding that nothing is worth hanging on to, right? That the nature of perception is impermanent. And so there's no point in holding on, that I started to fall in love with everything that I saw. I fell in love with the birds and the trees and the grass and the sky, because it's all made of this impermanent, nebulous life. And in all those cases, this feeling of love arises from understanding, whether it's understanding one's self and our internal parts that are often, confused, childish aspects of our psyche, or understanding an other and really seeing, what values motivate them. As Mr. Rogers said, I don't think that there isn't anyone you couldn't learn to love once you've heard their story, right? There's some quality by which understanding gives us to love. And so I thought it would be fun to explore this relationship and see how we can take it into our practice as meditators, as people who long to participate with life more skillfully, which in my view, one of the kind of effluence or indications of a skillful participation in life is that love is present in all of your relationships with yourself, with others, and with the world. And so how can we practice in a way that opens up love? And so it's important, I think, just to get a couple like definitional pieces or clarify some words like understanding and love. So in terms of like understanding in the Dharma frame means the kind of understanding that leads to freedom or leads to the relief of suffering, right? There are lots of ways of seeing understanding. Could be very abstract, or could be some kind of like cocktail party conversation. But in this case, we're looking at understanding in terms of that way of seeing that opens up freedom, that way of seeing that opens up love. Right? So how do we look at the world such that we are pulled into love, or that love has a chance in our experience? And I'm not going to actually try to define love, but I will offer a couple of different definitions, because I think that part of the nature of love is that it seeks to unfold itself, right? It longs to know more deeply or completely. And so in doing so, it often reveals dimensionality. And so appropriately, there's actually like many different definitions of love, actually, that are all very beautiful. So I'll offer a couple that I've found over time, and just see if any of these kind of resonate with you. And maybe that's a good definition of love for you for today or for this week. But I would wager that they're all true in their own ways. So I'll just kind of read them slowly and you can feel any resonances. So M. Scott Peck says that love is the will to extend yourself for the spiritual growth of another. Mark Gaffney says that love is the ceaseless, inherent creativity of the cosmos that animates and seduces all of reality to ever higher and deeper emergence. Brother David Stendhal Rast says that love is saying, yes, we belong together with your whole being. Barbara Fredrickson says that love is built up over many micro moments of connectedness. Forrest Landry says that love is that which enables choice. This one, it's from Eric Fromm. Love means to commit oneself without guarantee, to give oneself completely in the hope that our love will produce love in the loved person. So, okay. And then Soryu Foral says that love is the ability to see and embrace the perspective of others, hold to their perspectives and act accordingly. Just notice if any of those resonate with you. And I would say that we can and ought to endeavor to practice such that each of those, we can see the truth of each of those quotes and more. Love is this, well, I don't think I actually need to define it anymore. And it's also this quality of heartfulness, right? It's also a feeling. It's also something that we can encounter in our body mind, in our world. And so, so we seek ways to understand that open up this way of being in the world that we call love, this quality of life that we call love. We start to see, as we pay attention in practice, that in fact, that insofar as we begin to really let go, release clinging, that love comes, that there is a deep connectedness between emptiness and the open heart that's willing to love. So I took a quote from Rob Burbea, who's one of my favorite teachers. He said, insight into voidness, into emptiness, naturally feeds beautiful qualities such as metta and compassion. And this will become evident to a meditator who engages in a good deal of practice. Since clinging is a contraction and a kind of tension, clinging is a contraction and a kind of tension, any view that releases clinging will also soften in that moment the closed and brittle-heartedness that inevitably, to some degree, accompany and form part of clinging. Often, then, feelings of openness and tenderness arise in their place. Yes. Another way of saying this would be that generally, unless the love is the kind of clinging or contractive love that sometimes we can experience in intimate relationships, but when love is present, there is also a sense of openness, of letting go, of a releasing clinging. There's less reification. So when qualities such as generosity, metta, and compassion are strong, all of our perception is colored. We see beauty everywhere. We see beauty in other sentient beings, in nature, in the most mundane and ordinary situations and objects. On the other hand, when the mind, heart, the chitta is contracted in self-centeredness, or even actually mildly preoccupied with acquisition and possessiveness, things seem otherwise. They do not seem lovely or peaceful. When we're contracted, when we're clinging, the world appears differently. Love is hard to find. So we see that we make our world. This is the understanding that really begins to open up love. That the world that we see appears a certain way dependent on how we look at it. As this begins to become clear to us, then we're free to look in ways that build a different world, and inevitably we're drawn into love through the gravity of love, in fact, and the mystery of that existence. And so that's, I think, as practitioners, it's so important to see. And I, for many years, missed this. I would get into these states of, relative letting go, and things were just coming and going, and I could see that nothing was worth holding on to. It was just kind of appearances coming and going. It was beautiful, and there was this quality of peace. But what I didn't notice, because I wasn't looking, was that there was also a quality of love. There was also a quality of warmth, of heartfulness, of beauty and juiciness. And I think it's very easy to miss that, or at least it was for me. And so we can really start to look at, yes, like when there's letting go, there's also this kind of heart opening quality. And you can tell you're letting go because there's heart opening. And you can tell there's like so many things in Buddhism, they're dependent on each other. They're codependent, the good kind of codependency. Okay. And so I'll just kind of now we have that sort of as a premise, right? That is this relationship between understanding emptiness and the emergence of these beautiful qualities of the heart. I'll just sort of explore loving ourselves, loving others, and loving the world, using that as a kind of tool to explore those three concepts. So this is mostly going to be like tips for these different arenas, right? So loving ourselves. So this one is often particularly hard for folks in the West. There's lots of stories in the Buddhist world about how, what was it? I think it was a Mind and Life conference or something, and a teacher was talking to the Dalai Lama and asked the Dalai Lama something like, well, how do you practice with self-hatred? And the Dalai Lama was like flabbergasted, like did not know what that word meant, right? He asked the translator, and they're like, there's no word for this. We have to work it out. And they tried to work it out, and eventually it became clear what was being asked. And the Dalai Lama said, I can't help you with that. I don't think it's not something we have an experience of. And so there's something in particular about the psyche of, let's say modern, probably I would say modern neoliberal consumer culture that produces a kind of mind that tends towards self-hatred. And so for many people, giving metta, loving ourselves, is the hardest of all of these. And typically that means that there are specific parts of ourselves that we believe, usually somewhat subconsciously, don't deserve love. And so, as I was talking about at the beginning, we can learn to turn towards those parts of ourselves that, again, there's some part of us, other part of us, or for whatever reason we think are unlovable or not deserving of love, and extend love there. So often, if we find it quite difficult to just say, may I be happy, may I be safe, that actually doesn't generate metta, and that's because there's some inner conflict. Part of you, maybe you think part of you deserves love, but another part of you actually doesn't deserve love. So I can't give myself metta. So you can either target the metta towards the parts of yourself that you think don't deserve love, or you can target the metta to the parts of yourself that you do believe, and just kind of take the easy path. Like, you know, I love how able I am to not take things, or to take things lightly. Like, I can take things really lightly. I love that part about myself. Or I love my sense of humor. And so you can kind of start to open up love that way through relating with yourself. But eventually we do want to get to the point where we can just give ourselves metta. You know, there's a quote from the Buddha, and it gets translated in different ways. I like this translation. I think it's from Sharon Salzberg used it. It says, a person who deserves more love and affection than oneself in any place or anywhere cannot be found. The beautiful, beautiful sentiment. And we do want to understand ourselves deeply enough that we can love ourselves. So when Soryu says that the point of the path is to come to the point where you can see an other clearly and truly and love them completely, he's also referring to ourselves. That we have looked closely enough at all the nooks and crannies of our psyche that seem objectionable, that seem problematic, that seem indefensible. And we've seen that, in fact, they are motivated by love. They're motivated by care. They're motivated by a desire to be happy, but often they're confused and mistaken about how to achieve happiness and love. So we can come to that point, and eventually we will if we do this practice. And so when you give yourself metta, if it's hard for you and you feel well resourced, you can notice what part of you sort of is rejecting the metta. You can interocept that way. You can ask your psyche, and generally a part of you will step forward to be dialogued with, and then you can seek to understand that part. And you know that you fully understood the part when love bursts forth. That's generally just a kind of like strategy for, over time, developing love towards yourself. And certainly for me, like, this has been actually, I think this is has been as hard for me as like finding a way to love people that I actively am fighting with personally. And so if it is hard for you, that's unfortunately quite normal in our culture. And it's possible to shift that, and it's beautiful to do so and worth it. Yeah. So loving others. Loving others. This in part was also why I wanted to speak on this subject of love and understanding. And in particular, because of recent, well, I suppose I'll just say the political climate in the United States. It became, how should I say this? It seems to me that it's impossible to truly meet another person in a way in which an honest dialogue can happen if we don't find a way to understand and love them on some level. So there are lots of ways to amplify love when we're working with others. And the first thing to recognize here is that our perception of others is malleable. So it's amazing. Like if you actually just practice metta towards someone, like even if right now you just start ignoring what I'm saying and you maximize somebody's square in the Zoom and you just start beaming metta at them, right? You maybe use the puppies to spark it, and then you just start shooting it out of your heart at that person. Even if you don't know them, they will be your friend. You will feel very friendly towards them. They will seem more lovable, even though you don't perhaps know them at all. You will feel a kind of bond with them. This is really incredible thing to know that we can kind of do with our perception and with our minds and hearts. And so seeing the kind of that malleability, that elasticity or plasticity of our relationships with others, we can start to play with ways of looking and conceptions or ideas that can help us open up love, right? So one of my favorites is to reflect on death. All right, so if you can, well, let's do this together. So bring to mind a friend of yours, somebody that's easy to love. And then just consider that they will die at some point. They will pass away. Their life is temporary. And feel what that does to the heart. Feel what that does to how you perceive this person. For me, I notice they become more precious. They become more precious to me. It's easier to open to them. Notice if that's true for you. As one of my teachers says, we are all brothers and sisters in old age, sickness, and death. We all have these sense gates. We are all striving to be happy, even if we deeply disagree with the strategies that other people use. We can presence the reality of death. And as Buddhists, perhaps we're very aware how impermanent life is, but we can also see, yes, this person is impermanent. This person is subject to passing away, to death. And this can open up a sense of love and appreciation, preciousness. if you feel like judgment or ill will or anger at another, you can practice trying to see what exactly are you angry at? Are you angry at their thoughts? Are you angry at their body? The parts of their body? Are you angry at their feelings, their intentions? These all just arise out of conditions. Right? These are all just empty phenomena. And while this is not a way to see people all the time, seeing in this way can help to release the grip of anger, the grip of ill will, and open our hearts towards others. Yes, a good illustration of this is this poem by Chandrakirti. And he says, I think this is the beginning of this pretty long text that he wrote, the Madhyama Kavatra. It says, at the start, I praise compassion. Beings think I at first and cling to self. They think mine and are attached to things. They thus turn helplessly as buckets on a water wheel. And to compassion for such beings, I bow down. Beings are like a moon in rippling water, fleeting, evanescent, and empty in their nature. Bodhisattvas see them thus and yearn to set them free. Their wisdom is beneath compassion's power. So this, again, this certain way of understanding what an other is that we can play with taking on in order to support the flow of compassion and love. Right? They're like a moon in rippling water, fleeting, evanescent, and empty in their nature. To see another thus, just sort of, for some mysterious reason, just invites compassion, invites love. And just like with loving ourselves, and if we remember what Mr. Rogers said, that you can, there's nobody that you can't love if you hear their story. We can also take the lack of love for an other as an indication for a lack of understanding. So, for instance, if in some cultural situation or some kind of event or experience, there's somebody who you don't love, some actor, some agent in a system that you don't love, that's an indication that you could seek to understand them. It's an invitation to understanding. So when I read the news and see a person or group of people acting in ways that seems just completely objectionable, I can't see any daylight, I then can in part read that as an indication that, oh, there's something I don't understand here. And one way, in particular with working with others, to get to a point of understanding and thus love, is to discern what values they're being motivated by. And this is often what we do at the monastic academy when there's conflict, is that we sit the people down And we have them talk until they both can recognize and honor the values that the other is standing for. Because typically conflict is in fact a conflict of values. And so, you know, I don't want to get too in the weeds of any particular, there's a lot that is unfortunate about the political situation in America right now. And for me, one of the ways that I seek to work with that is to examine and imagine the people who I most strongly disagree with and see if I can try to understand what values they're motivated by. Like perhaps it's truth or security or belonging, and see that that is on some level motivating their actions, and at the same time I can completely disagree with their strategy. Right? I can say the strategy that you're using to achieve and live according to your values is wrong and actually perhaps shouldn't even be allowed. But I honor that your heart, like mine, is fundamentally similar, motivated by love and freedom from suffering, and that you too are subject to death. So again, I want to make sure that it's clear that just because there's love does not mean that you can't put up boundaries. Very important to be clear about that. You can love and have clear boundaries, or keep people away from you even. It's important to say that. So it is possible to come to a point when we understand others in a way that we love them. And as practitioners, I think one of the ways that we can contribute to the world is by seeking to understand those we encounter, either in our actual world or those we encounter in our sense making of the world, in ways that on some level we can see that they are worthy of love, and we can actually access a felt sense of love for them, even if it's just love for the commonality that we have, that we are brothers and sisters in aging, sickness, and death. But it also works, in fact, for people who are quite close to us, like friends or people we live in monasteries with. Right? These are not tools that only work for people that we struggle with. Okay, so then loving the world, the last arena that I'll talk about. And so I love this one. So the world from a Buddhist perspective is what we perceive. We talked about this in last week's meeting. So, when the Buddha talks about, he says, I say that the end of the world cannot be known, seen, or reached by traveling. Yet I also say that without reaching the end of the world, there is no making an end to suffering. Right? The world that he's talking about is our perception. Buddhism is fundamentally a phenomenological system. It looks at the world in terms of perception. And so to open up our love for the world, we seek to understand the nature of our perception, which in a Buddhist frame means to see its empty nature. When we see the empty nature of phenomena, love comes. It does. Our heart is opened, and we feel blessed by the mystery of life. Again, this is, and if you practiced, if you've spent a lot of time in practice, you may be missing this. It's possible that you might be missing this. That with emptiness, with this letting go, there does come a kind of love. There does come a kind of heartfulness. So in the Chan tradition, it is said that all phenomena are truly empty, thus unfathomable existence. In Zen, they say, true emptiness is wondrous being. It's this quality of mystery, of unfathomability that causes our hearts to just almost like break open at the beauty, the mystery, the magic of it. The Buddha compares consciousness itself as like a magic trick, right? Both in the sense that it's a construction, but also that it's amazing. It's amazing. Experience is amazing. In the Aksayamati Sutra, it says, and I love this, it says at first, love has beings as its objects. Right? First you love beings, yourself, others. For bodhisattvas who have practiced further on the path, love has dharmas as its objects, actually phenomena, the phenomena of perception. We love perception. And for bodhisattvas who have attained receptivity to the truth of non-origination, or emptiness, the truth of emptiness, love has no object. Love has no object. It's just love. Love without an object. It's beautiful. It's incredible. It's incredible. And this is why at the Monastic Academy, every evening, we chant Om Mani Padme Hum, which lots of different translations you can find. My favorite one is, oh my goodness, thank you for the union of emptiness and compassion. Wow. These two things come together. It's glorious, right? It's this exclamation of praise to the universe for the fact that the nature of things is such. So you see, when we are able to really penetrate into that empty nature, love for the world, or just love itself, flows. Perfect. Okay, so those are all three of the different areas, self, other, and world. And I know that there was, I threw a lot of pieces out. And hopefully something in that kind of resonated and felt useful for you now. For me, 13 years into practice, and I'm like regularly discovering new pieces of this dynamic of love and emptiness. Like it's so rich and so beautiful. I mean, that's why, that's why we chanted at the end of each evening. It's like where it is. Like this is so much about what actually motivates at least my participation with this whole path. And so there's easy ways in, and there's whatever way in that's available to you is perfect and beautiful. And it's a what do you say? It's a really big, delicious cake. And wherever you get to put your mouth on it right now, that's great. And just keep eating. You actually won't get full. It's perfect. Just go for it. And so we're going to do a guided meditation on this subject now for about half an hour or so, 40 minutes. And we'll be doing two major parts of this practice. do metta towards an object, either yourself or others. And then we'll be doing metta love towards phenomena. It's one of my favorite practices. And finding yourself in a posture that is suitable for you. In general, we want a sense of uprightness, alertness. Poise, stability. And feel your body sitting. Touching the ground, backside, the legs, the feet. Coming home to the body. Noticing the breathing if it helps you anchor into the body. Inviting tension in your body to release. Might notice obvious tension in the belly or the shoulders, legs. Putting out the invitation to relax. Perhaps breathing gently into areas of tension. Relaxing the body with a gentle breath. Welcoming this experience. If you get distracted, you come back to your felt sense of the body. Breathing to settle the mind. Breathing to relax the body. As the body releases tension, the mind will naturally settle. Start tensing the body, inviting it to relax. In this practice, we're endeavoring to create a state, a mood, an atmosphere of energized calm. Open up more calmness by relaxing the body, breathing in a way that soothes the body. And we can open up energy by making sure that our attention is bright. If we're sleepy, we can open our eyes, sit up straight. Or if needed, stand up. We're looking for this blend of energy and ease, relaxation. And if, as you're hearing this, you notice a part of yourself that's upset for any reason, maybe because it doesn't feel like it's going very well, or whatever else, feel free to sit down with that part and seek to come into a relationship of understanding. Seek to love this part of yourself, this part of the world. We'll begin with generating metta for ourselves. If you already have a favorite way to do that, you can go ahead, and I'll lead a couple of different methods. So you could try phrases like, may I be happy. May I be safe. May I be loved. May I know peace. May my life be filled with joy. Really feel the phrases as you say them. And if one or two of them really resonate, you can use that to generate metta for yourself. You might also use imagery. Perhaps remembering yourself as a child, or bringing to mind an image of yourself happy, joyful. Or a memory of some virtuous act, some beautiful thing that you've done. Or you can just tell yourself that you love yourself. I love you, Daniel. And if in this process a part of you objects to the love, you can, if you wish, if it feels right to do so, spend some time with that part, seeking to understand the world from their perspective. The attitude here is one of play and experimentation. What works to spark this feeling of metta for you towards yourself? Maybe it's a phrase that I didn't say, but that mysteriously works perfectly for you. If you get lost or distracted, you can come back to whatever method helps you generate metta for yourself. The key is this felt sense. Feel metta in the body, the energy body. some part of you thinks that you don't need love or this is silly. Again, feel free to, if you wish, sit down with that part and have them for tea. Seek to understand them and their perspective. For some, it can help to put a hand on the heart or on the belly. You can stay generating metta towards yourself, or I'll begin guiding metta for others. You can bring to mind somebody that it's easy to love. Somebody who your heart easily opens towards. Bring their image to mind, perhaps seeing them happy, smiling, radiant, filled with joy. May you be peaceful. May you be happy. May you be filled with joy. If you know what phrase they would want to hear that you know would unlock metta towards them for you, use that phrase. For some, it helps to use the imagination, imagining a beam of love from your heart to them or their heart. Or imagining them radiating light. Again, not losing track of the body. Noticing metta in the body, love in the body. if it feels accessible, you can make eye contact with them and see if they love you too. And notice how it changes the experience to love and be loved. Get lost, bringing the other back to mind, the one who is easy to love, and generate metta for them, through them, for yourself. Just as in another technique, we might come back to the breath. In this technique, we come back to metta and the generating of metta. Now you may stay with this person for whom it is easy for you to love, or move on to somebody who is difficult for you to love, challenging for you to love. Really be honest with yourself in your choice here, whether you're up for the person. It's okay to choose a less challenging subject for the meditation if something in you is resisting or just doesn't feel like a good idea. But in any case, bring to mind a person who is challenging for you to love, with whom love does not easily flow, or even with whom you have conflict, ill will, anger. For this one, if there's a particular action or way of being in the world that for you makes them difficult to love, seek to understand that action. What deep down were they motivated by? What values were motivating them? Is it possible to see the world from their perspective? Or you could see them with the understanding that they are a brother or sister in old age, sickness, and death. That they are dying. They will die. That they are like a moon in rippling water, fleeting and evanescent, empty in their nature. See if seeing them in this way allows you to love them, allows you to feel metta towards them. A third option for working with another is to examine what part of you cannot love this other and seek to understand that part. Whatever method you choose, seeking to feel a sense of loving kindness towards this other for whom it is difficult for you to love. Sense of friendliness, well-wishing. Playing with perception in whatever way enables or unlocks love, kindness, warmth. You can stay with generating metta for this challenging person. Or if you like, last method I'll be guiding is directing metta towards phenomena, towards experience. So with this, you can take whatever experience is prominent right now. If nothing is prominent, you can use the body sensations. And you can experiment with different ways of directing metta warmth towards whatever phenomena you're with. You might find that using the phrases is helpful. But whether with or without phrases, over and over, tenderly bathing and holding this phenomena in kindness. Gently sustain a totally welcoming relationship to the arising and passing away of phenomena, emphasizing the quality of love and acceptance as things come and go. If there's pleasure in the body, sending metta to the pleasure. If there's pain, sending metta to the pain. There's just neutral sensations, sending metta there. If there's resistance, holding the felt experience of that resistance in love and complete acceptance. Whatever you're experiencing can be included. Bathing the sensations of the body in kindness and metta. Or bathing the sounds you hear. Metta, friendliness and love, warmth, totally welcoming. Whatever phenomena, feeling a sense of love. loving whatever is present. And in the last moments of this period of practice, noticing what has happened to your perception when you look in the way that you've looked, how it feels. If you were able to generate metta, love, notice that it feels good to love. Wholesome quality of the heart, a beautiful quality of the heart. It's good for you, good for the world. Okay. So, last 18 minutes or so, we can have a discussion, any questions or curiosities, or if you want to share something that happened for you when you meditated, something that you learned, something that you were challenged by. This is an open space for the next 18 minutes or so.
Yeah, I'll share. I really appreciate that this was the topic, love, self-love. I found it really challenging to stay with. Like it's like going in and out of clarity, like going in and out of having thoughts of like, oh yeah, these are all the reasons why, I can love myself and I'm a good person. And I found it was easier to do the meditation with other people, like sharing love with others. But when it came to myself, it was like going in and out of like thoughts that were so convincing that I didn't deserve. And just like heavy sighs, waves of like going in and out of just like having like a loving understanding of myself, and then just it's like just this teeter-tottering or like short-circuiting where like something comes in and just like punches me in the gut. So I struggled with that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, James. I am very familiar with that space, and it's courageous to walk into it.
So regarding the portion about sending metta to an experience. The experience I was thinking about was when my son died 2 years ago. An experience for which I have a lot of conflict, obviously, suffering. And so I will say that the practice, I think, was helpful. I found myself trying to parse it out, like this happened and I felt that way. And then this happened and I felt that way. And then I saw Blair and it was like this. And then he disappeared. And I had to kind of step away from that. It was too much stuff. And it actually brought back a little something about what you said last week, which I have worked on a lot this week, is the eye sees form, and then that form turns into perception. And that's where the problem lies, right? So I tried to do that. So from my feelings to the form and let it be there. And I felt that just sort of made a place where resistance couldn't take root. And all those feelings that I have that I've been working with, they just don't seem, that's not fertile ground for that. Yeah. Or something like that. So it was a bit of an effort, but I think a really helpful effort. But if you wanted to elaborate on that a little bit, I would appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, so thank you for sharing, Margaret. And what comes up is that as we learn to work in the way you described, or really letting go of all perception, regardless of what it might be, as we become familiar with that process, it kind of makes it safer to go into really challenging territory. Because, as you say, there's a way in which, when we have access to that whatever it is can't really touch us there. Like we're safe. Yeah. We're safe in, you might say, the absolute, or safe in emptiness. And so it's really skillful, as you did, to, if you are working with a challenging person or experience, to kind of even like titrate, oscillate back and forth until your system can kind of hold it, like backing out into emptiness as appropriate. So it's really well done. And thank you for sharing.
Because it's kind of an experience where we're expected to hold on to it. Yes. We're expected to suffer. Right? I mean, no one wishes that on you, but in our whole culture, or in many cultures, I'm sure, you're not supposed to really be able to let go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Very mature of you, Daniel.
There's sun like right in my eyes. I think everybody can see that, so I can't tell if you can just talk if you want to. I don't know if anybody's what you all are doing.
So I went on a bit of a sidetrack of an experience, but I thought it could be interesting to talk through it. It started from sleepiness or drowsiness, and which I guess is pretty common, but then it was quite interesting to bring in this approach of metta, where I could try to be loving towards drowsiness and sort of, or even better, to be understanding. And so I was kind of asking the question like, what is it that you're here for? And then the answer was kind of surprising, that kind of never occurred to me. Basically, the answer was that the drowsiness was here in order, like, not to be anymore. Like, sort of the answer is bringing that there's nothing really worth being here for, so I don't want to be here anymore. Which is, yeah, it's, it never occurred to me that this kind of desire for non-being, which I guess in the words I put it, it sounds very like suicidal kind of tendency. That's a sort of, it's the same thing that can be behind drowsiness somehow. So that was an interesting learning. But then it also sort of changed, like, being understanding towards it. So with this answer of like, there's nothing interesting enough here, I was like trying to make a bit of a compromise of like, what about this breath? Isn't it a little bit? And then it turned out it was very interesting. And then the other thing was like, what about yourself? I was asking a drowsiness, aren't you kind of interesting? And then this created a very interesting experience, which was quite unique for me, which is, the way I can describe it is some kind of like, it was definitely like a sense of tension involved, but not a physical one. It was just kind of like these big plates pushing against each other. And then, but it was kind of nice to lean into that tension. And then it sort of resulted in these interesting waves of like a very pleasant sensation sort of flooding my body that came from this kind of leaning into the tension, which, yeah, it was a lot of fun to go through.
Oh, thank you for sharing. I feel very delighted by what you shared. It's actually really helpful when you're kind of relating to parts of yourself to have the frame that they're autonomous, almost like people. And so it's an indication that you were doing that you were surprised by what the sleepiness said. And I found it to be the case often that drowsiness and torpor is actually some kind of like subtle inner conflict. Like, part of me doesn't want to do the thing, so it's like, meh, and then it just wants to like shut down my perception altogether, like this kind of drive towards non-being, as you say, which is classically one of the major drives that Buddhism tries to sort of deal with, the drive towards non-being or not becoming. It was really, really cool that how clearly you saw that, and that you were able to open it up in a really interesting way. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's so cool. 5 minutes left if anybody else wants to say anything at all.
Maybe something that was new to me today was not only thinking about the love for the person, but also which part of me doesn't want to extend that love to the person. And I think that was really good to acknowledge and find space for that. Another interesting thing that is first time maybe that I've heard so many positive things about emptiness. And I was just curious, because I guess maybe emptiness is not the same as numbness, which I think I have a negative relationship with. And I mean, I was just wondering if you'd like to say a bit more about sort of the positive side of emptiness here.
Sure. Yeah. And I'll speak to the first thing you said first, which is that has been totally like a game changer for me, that the noticing what part of me is unwilling to love the other. And really like that switch, learning how to do that made living at the monastic academy like tolerable, basically. And I'm pretty sure it's like the secret sauce to being able to like live in community is really taking responsibility for what you're projecting onto the other, kind of doing your side of the work. And so, yeah, it's totally, I mean, it's so vital. And I'm glad that it resonated with you. So yeah, in terms of the emptiness, numbness piece, it's hard. Like there are other words. So words, obviously, you know, there's a lot that we kind of pre-associate with words. So word like emptiness has connotations of like nihilism or numbness or like desolation. And you can problematize that a little bit by playing with like other words that are sometimes translated for emptiness. So there's like voidness, nebulosity, indiscernibility, unfindability, right? All these are words that kind of come to mind, a sense of like, yeah, so maybe those have different resonances for you. That it is definitely, I think, a major failure mode of this kind of practice, that in fact it's practiced as a kind of nihilistic movement. And we have to guard against that. And one of the ways that we can guard against that is through the kind of work that we did today, through consciously amplifying these kind of heart qualities, these beautiful qualities of the heart. And often in, you know, some Buddhist traditions, they talk about there being kind of two wings to this path. One is training in beautiful qualities of the heart and mind, and the other is working to see things clearly, working to see emptiness. And there's a way in which compassion and beauty and mystery is kind of implicit in emptiness, and then other times it's very useful to specifically work to increase our awareness of those qualities because of this, I think, tendency towards nihilism, both in the kind of like the words that's used, as well as I just think in our kind of culture, like the tendency towards nihilism. I know for me, I have tipped into that direction a lot. And the indication that we've tipped a little bit into nihilism, into numbness, as you say, is the lack of those heart qualities. And so if you notice that those are not there, are not present in your practice, you know, somewhat reliably, then I would just like shift pretty significantly towards working in that until you notice actually that when you go into states of letting go, when you let go, there is naturally heart. Love. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Great question. So that brings us to the end of this session. Thank you all so much for coming. It's really fun to do this. I have a lot of fun coming up with topics and reading and putting together this stuff. So it's a joy that you come, and it's a joy to be here with you. And as I have said before, if you want to learn about something in particular, I'm happy to do research for you, with you, and learn about a topic together. So yeah, thank you so much. Next week, by the way, right now Oak is on retreat. Right now they're in self-practice period. They're probably taking naps, I would expect, but they're on intensive retreat right now, doing 12 hours or so of meditation a day, and they'll be done next Friday. And so hopefully they'll be here with us for the next Saturday sit to say hello to you. But until then, thank you all for coming, and have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryu.
Thank you. It was wonderful. Good to see Willow also. Really good to see the group. Hi, you guys.
Yeah.
Everyone. Really
Thank you
touched
all.
my heart. All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, James. Bye, Colin.
Please, man. Thank you.
Bye, Morgan. Bye.